Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Trang Tries It, where I try another spiritual or metaphysical reading so that way you can see it if you like it, and then you can try it and support another business. So in today's reading, I am getting osteomancy, or also known as bone throwing. So we did a little light Google search on how bone throwing or runes work, and it seems like it's a really ancient form. A lot of these spiritual modalities don't seem to be written in, let's say, research or scholarly papers, so obviously information is based off of other blogs, so I cannot say for sure that this is 100% correct. However, it seems like it's an ancient form of divination, and it seems like something that you kind of ask questions for a certain topic or situation, so maybe like career or relationship, but more so like what message do I need to hear now, versus in, let's say, tarot, you can ask specific like, oh, how long will I be in this situation, or how long until this, and you can like probably dive deep more into a specific question with tarot. So with osteomancy or bone throwing, it seems like the reader has a set of bones, and this can be kind of collected over years. It's kind of like they are making their own bone collection, and they might have some charms in there as well, and or it could be rocks, things like that, tiles, maybe mix it up with a bit of runes, and then they throw it, and then based on where it lands, they can interpret it based on what each bone or each charm symbolizes and where it falls on the table or whatever surface they're using it for. So based off of Google, I am going to read a little bit of what I found here. It seems like oracle bones were actually found hundreds, maybe over 1,000 years ago in China, actually, and they were a form of divination, fortune telling, also called osteomancy. And they use the patterns of the natural bumps, cracks, and discolorations in an animal bone or turtle shells. And you'll notice in my reading that it'll be from bones of animals. It could be the wings or it could be the jaw. Okay, so let's check out my reading. So we did the session over Zoom. However, she asked that I do not publish the Zoom online of the video. So I'm going to use this photo in order to show you kind of like what it kind of looks like. So she starts off having like showing you on her screen a basket, and she has a lot more charms, items, bones in that, which is really typical in bone throwing. And then she has me in like a shell resembling me in one hand, and then in the other hand she'll just choose a handful of items, and then she'll combine them together, and then over, you can see on that, I guess you can say that little mat, she will drop the bones just straight like that, and then seeing where it lands, and that's where it lands. And the shell that was representing me landed like far over here off the photo. You know, it's kind of like showing that I am away from everything else that's going on in there, which you will see later on in the audio. So hopefully this kind of gives you visualization. I'll try my best to kind of point things out to you with my little arrow here, but as you can see, there's like the bones, and there's a rock and bird symbol here. It's a bit blurry, but a little wishbone and a little Buddha. No, that's a frog, and it's like upside down or on its back. Yeah, so here we go.
Okay. So you are over there, and the action or what's going on in the reading is right here. The reason that I use garnets, because garnet is a stone of action and movement, and inside the circle is what's actually happening, and you are outside of the circle, the bone that represents you. So what that usually means is either you have such a connection to someone else, and this reading is more about them than about you. Whatever's happening to this person is affecting your life, or there's something that's going on here that's affecting your life in your own life to the point where you don't want to have anything to do with it. You're kind of trying to distance yourself from what's going on. All right, so I'm going to go right in the middle first, because you've got this little figurine right here. This is Ganesha. Ganesha is the elephant head god, guy who really nothing can stop him, and when he's protecting you, there's nothing that can stand in your way. He's basically like the big elephant who just kind of puts his head down, powers through, and kind of moves everything out of the way for you. He's right in the smack in the center of the circle. So, and he's standing straight up, which is really unusual for Ganesha because you can see it's a little, it's a little brass figure. Usually falls on his side or falls someplace else. It's very unusual for him to have fallen straight up. This Ganesha carries an umbrella or a parasol, so it kind of enhances his protectiveness and his the idea that he's not going to let anything rain on you. He's going to sort of keep you safe and keep you protected from any harm. And the reason that I have an amber line is because it's still living, it's a life force, and it signifies your life path. Okay, and this little hanger on over here is actually a vine. Charm that's a vine. That signifies family, because family can, like a vine, can either draw together, hold together, and leave through, or it can choke. And we've all had experiences where your family is just around your neck, sort of. It's like keeping you from moving forward. And this is just right into your life path. So family is really important to you one way or another, either as a force that's really helping you to survive and to get through, and all very close, or it's something that's kind of like it was hanging there. It's kind of like a hang or a drag on your life, and it's something that affects your life in either positively or negatively. And that was so important that it was kind of clinging right there. That really needed to be said, basically. And you can see that your life path is pretty clear. It's pretty wide open. When things are really tough, the life path will be a big jumble. It'll be like a big tangle in the middle. So even though you're way out here, there's nothing going on that you can't handle, and you still haven't quite figured out why you're over there. But it seems like your life path right now is it's going to enter a phase where things are really going to start opening up. And like I said, you have Ganesha who's going to help you through this anyway. But I will start with this part of your life now, which is the kind of like the here and now. You've got this big old rock right here, and the rock is obstacles. So this is literally it's a meteorite that I found outside. It's made of iron. You can see how oxidized it is. It's got rust on it, and it's also very heavy for its size. And so it signifies something that kind of just fell out of nowhere. And all of a sudden, you're like kind of walking along living your life, this little dude, and all of a sudden, bam, you got this thing that's right in the middle of your life that you have to deal with. And what's interesting is every time there's a little cross, a little twist in your life path, it often means there's a karmic connection because it forms an infinity sign. So it's something that is happening because it has to. It's whatever it is that's going on, you're kind of at that crossroads. I'm going to pick this up so that you can see.
So I'm going to pause it right here, and you guys can't see under the rock, but during the reading she lifted up that rock or the obstacle, and that amber, it was kind of like twisted underneath there. So kind of like, not a knot, but like a twist. So that's what she was talking about right there.
You're kind of at that crossroads. I'm going to pick this up so that you can see. That little cross right there. And so this falling here at this time in your life was absolutely sort of preordained. It's something that was bound to happen. And although it may seem like, this big obstacle, you got this big rock in your path, it's actually a good thing because it's going to teach you something that's going to help with the rest of your life if you allow it to. this is a little snake's vertebra. The snake vertebra is about standing up for yourself.
Okay, so she talks about the family for me, and I'm trying to figure out what it is. It seems like, again, it's like interpreting of these bones, but it doesn't, it's not like tarot where it says like, oh, it might show something more specifically. So I'm guessing maybe I did have a death that happened in my family this year. So I wonder if that was kind of like, I wouldn't say the tension, but the part of the obstacle that's coming up maybe. But I am very surprised to see how it plays out on, and if it plays out on how it's going to help me in the future, like she mentioned just now.
The snake vertebra is about standing up for yourself. You know, snakes are pretty much, if you look at their skeleton, they're all ribs and back, you know, in the jaw and the head. So this signifies something like having a spine, having a backbone, standing up, speaking out. That's going to be part of what's going to get you over this period of time when there's this obstacle. You've got to speak out. You've got to sort of stand your ground and know that you're in the right, and so it's okay for you to speak up. The other thing you've got here is a little bit of pyrite. It's fool's gold. And fool's gold is about wealth, but it's about not like money wealth, it's about resources. And it has a lot to do with the resources inside of you, with the wealth of personality of who you are and what you bring to the table. So through this process, you know, this rock process that's going on, this getting through this obstacle, knowing your worth is going to be really important, and accepting your worth and owning it and telling other people your value in their lives, and letting them know that you know your value and you know that you're important and you're not going to take anybody's crap, okay? So this is kind of a pivotal moment for you. Once you get through this, it's going to teach you a lot about your own strength and your own power, okay? And then you put the wishbone. And this kind of puts an interesting spin on this, that the wishbone is about wish fulfillment and getting what you want. And you can see it's
funny when she mentioned wish fulfilled, getting what you want and what you wish for. In tea leaf reading, or for some people, they use different symbols to interpret different things, but the tea leaf reader I went to, which you can watch by clicking on the link above right here, she uses a ladybug symbol for that when she sees it in a tea leaf reading. So it's interesting seeing how all these different readings have their own symbols for what something represents, but also kind of using really similar words like wish fulfilled.
And you can see it's not really touching this cluster right here, but it's out there sort of on the horizon. When this issue is resolved, you're going to go, oh, thank God that this all happened, because I've always wanted to fill in the blank, right? Whatever that is that you've always wanted to do and you've always thought that you couldn't do it, this is going to prove to you that you can do that, and you can make your own decisions, and you can be heard. So it's really important that you go through this. It's going to look like, wow, you know, if I only knew that all I had to do was X, I would have done it a lot sooner. But now, because there's this obstacle in your way, that's the thing that's going to push you towards it. You know, we can kind of take our time about something and say, oh, you know, one of these days I'm going to whatever, and then life suddenly says, you know what, now's the time. So whether you like it or not, and that's kind of what's going to happen. It's going to be one of those things.
Yeah, so I am very curious to see how that plays out for me. I have no idea at the moment. All I can think of at the moment is wishing for, I guess, to keep just growing the happy healing shop, really. I don't know if that has to do, the wishbone is separate. I would have to look back at the video again. I don't know if it's separate from that obstacle with the meteorite rock in the upper corner that has to do kind of with family. So it's one of those things where I'm not sure if these all intertwine together. Maybe they do, that's why, or maybe they intertwine based on like how close they are to each other, or even that snake vertebrae you see on the right there where it says like standing up for yourself. Is that when it's close to the family, is it that? Or is it more like in general in life standing up for yourself? So that's kind of like something where I think it might be interpretive for, but yeah, let me know in your comments below on what you think.
Careful what you wish for. You're going to get it and you're going to go, oh yeah, this is great. This is just what I hoped it would be. All right, so then we're going to kind of move further along in your path. You can see that once this is resolved, things kind of open up, right? You don't really even have any other like crossy, twisty parts to it. And Ganesha's standing guard. He's like sort of standing there, and he's almost like a gatekeeper and saying, okay, come on, you've made it this far, let's keep going. And then you've got all this stuff over here. I'm trying to figure out where to go next, because you've got a lot of jaws. You've got, you've got every jaw in my set, which is kind of interesting. I've got some teeth, but these are all the jaws, half jaws, and complete jaws that I have. So let's start from the outside and move in. These two are actually, they're squirrel jaws, and they're actually part of the same squirrel. So squirrel, like rodent jaws are kind of like this. They're kind of like, these are the big incisor teeth, and they kind of stick together in that spot like that. And then, when you use them for a set, or sometimes over time, they just kind of like break apart like that. So each one of these is sort of a half jaw. These two are a jaw, bottom jaw, from a squirrel. And the reason that I have two is because they represent communication and talking to people and other people talking to you about you. And here's what's interesting. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on this jaw, so I'm going to get to that next. But this guy over here, the reason I have two is that this is negative talk and this is positive talk. So the negative talk is like gossip, rumors, insults, negativity, people telling you you can't do something. And you can see that that's kind of, it's way out here on the end. It's the furthest bone from you, remember you're over there, that of any other in the set. So you're not letting other people's negativity get to you, which is really good. And you need to keep that out there. You need to keep it as far from you as possible. Because, like, when this kind of stuff starts happening, when things get tough, like the big rock falls in our path, we tend to let this in more. We kind of listen to it a little bit more than we would have if things were all going really well, right? And so you start thinking like, maybe they're right, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, maybe this isn't going to work out. Keep these guys as far from you as possible, okay? All of those people who are saying you can't, just ignore them. Now this is positive talk. So this is people saying, you go girl.
That big bone right there.
I think this is really important. I love that this is happening. All that stuff. And you can see it's kind of fitting right into this other jaw, this big one. So this is a muskrat jaw. I love the muskrat jaw. It's like a really, really good energy to have. And it goes along with this idea of you kind of standing up, because the muskrat, I'm trying to think of a kind way to say it, kind to the muskrat. The muskrat, like the honey badger, just don't care, okay? It doesn't care what anybody thinks about it, what anybody says. It's unapologetically what some people would call selfish. It's all about itself. But it does that only to survive, okay? It doesn't do it to be mean. It doesn't do it to, hurt other people. But the reality is, sometimes when you say no to other people about things that you really need to do for yourself, they're going to get hurt. They're going to get ticked off. They're going to say mean things about you. But in your muskrat place, you're going to say, I need to do this for me. This is my chance. This is my thing right now, and I need to do this because this is what I'm an adult, and this is what I want to do and what I need to do. And it's kind of like, so if a muskrat is out in a pond and there's this wonderful beaver lodge, the beavers took long time to build, and they've been living there for a long time. Muskrat comes along and says, man, what a cool place this would be to raise my kids, right? So it kicks the beavers out and it takes over, and the beavers are like, what the heck, right? So the beavers are ticked off, and that's these people. These are kind of like, hey, wait a minute, how come you can come in here and you can do what you want to do when you're upsetting my plans? But you know what? That's their path. And your path is to be you and to do what you want to do. And you're here to accomplish what you want to do. As long as it's not malicious, like you're doing it on purpose to be mean, that's a different story. But when you're doing something to advance yourself and you're not intending to hurt anybody else, that's part of that muskrat energy of, I know that this might be something that you don't want me to do, but I know that this is right for me. And that's the energy. And the squirrel's job, the positive squirrel's job, is saying, I can talk to these people in a way that's not defensive, that's not angry, that's not demeaning in any way, but I can still stand up and speak my truth in a way that they're going to be able to hear it and accept it and understand that I'm doing this because I have to, not because I'm hurting someone else. Okay? All right. So those guys are just kind of sitting out there, and this is going to be a catalyst to this stuff that's going on in here. And there's a lot of stuff in there. So
The juicy middle.
So here's my other jaw. I'm gonna do this first though, because it comes first in the movement. This is a handcuff. Think of it as like an ankle cuff. Okay. It's something that holds you back, and you can see that it's tight. It's just really something that's closed up. And you're going to have to decide, and Ganesha, the mover of obstacles, is going to help you decide, do I want to keep carrying this around knowing that it's a ball and chain? Knowing that this thing, whatever this is, and we'll see if this gives us any clues, is going to hold me back. Do I want to let it continue holding me back, or do I want to move forward in what I want to do next? Your ancestors never say, you can't do that. They always say, it would be, you would get faster to your goal if you did X, even though X is really hard to do. But they also say, but we understand if you can't do that right now. They just try to give you a pathway that's going to help you reach your goals. They're not going to say, if you don't do it, we're not going to be your friends anymore. They're not going to force you to do anything.
I'm really glad that she teaches that, and that's the way she performs her work through a reading, because a lot of times there are silly content out there online where they say, oh, your loved ones are ditching you, or they don't love you anymore, and stuff. Like, no, your ancestors, your spirit guides, your team, your angels, they are going to give you suggestions. Obviously, it's always up to you. You always have free will to do what you choose to do, but they are not going to ditch you if you don't do a certain thing. Like, they understand the human experience and what we go through, and how things can't be easily done sometimes, because we are humans. We have emotions, we have traumas, we have like issues that we're still working through. So I'm really glad that she said that, and I really like that style of putting that inside of in a reading, and giving like the FYI, like your team is not gonna be angry with you like that. Like, they're just more like, hey, here's some advice, but we hope you take it, but if you don't, we get it, we understand.
The thing here is, if you decide to hold on to this thing that's holding you back in your life, it's not going to help you get where you want to go. And it needs to go. It's just hard to let it go. Okay? And I know that because way out here is scissors, and we're going to talk about that soon too.
I'm trying to figure out what my handcuff is.
This guy first. So underneath here, you probably can't see it. You just see this little white patch right here. That's another jawbone. This is a gopher jaw. And gopher energy.
Okay, so underneath this, this is actually a shell. It's a bit washed out in this photo right here, but underneath that shell, you can't see it, is another jaw, and that's where she's talking about the gopher jaw.
This is a gopher jaw. And gopher energy is about what kind of work do you do?
Oh, are you asking me specifically right now?
Yeah, do you have something like do you have a job where you are, like, is it considered a helping profession?
Well, currently I'm unemployed, but
Okay.
I used to be an executive assistant, and for the job, does it mean like I also have like a business I'm building? So there's also that on the side, or does it mean like your full time daytime job?
Well, it's more like your vocation. Like, what do you really want to do? And the gopher jaw is, you're probably way too young to remember the TV show MASH. Do you know MASH?
Yes, but I didn't watch it.
Okay. Well, there was a guy called Radar whose job, he was the gopher, basically. And he got stuff for people before they even knew they wanted it, right? He was like right on, like the major would turn around and ask him for coffee, and he would have the coffee in his hand already and give it to him. Like, that was his thing. He was the guy who got things. And that's what this gopher energy is. The gopher is about wanting to help, just being there for other people, being in making that your vocation, making that part of your life to be helpful to other people. And that's what's really interesting. And I'm trying to see if I can move this without messing anything up.
She's trying to move this stuff.
Video, you'll be able to see it before and after, so I don't think I'll. But there's a little hand under here. See, it was under this big shell.
So underneath this big shell right here, there's a little plastic hand, just kind of like this. So that's what she's talking about. In a few seconds, she's going to talk about the shell, that huge shell right there, as representing grandparents, which is funny because you guys know that I talked to my grandpa in the afterlife. Click on the link up here to watch the whole series about him where we channel with him.
But there's a little hand under here. You see, it was under this big shell, which incidentally, this is your grandparents. That's what this shell represents. And the helping, that little hand that's got its hand out, it's like you're reaching out. You're trying to pull others up. Okay, you're reaching down to other people and saying, I will give you hope. I will give you a reason to go on, basically. You're trying to help people up. And the gopher jaw is right next to that and saying, this is what you're meant to do. This is what you're wanting to do. And your grandparents, who are right on top of this, are your grandparents living?
No.
So they're with you. Okay, and not only are they with you, but they're like right with you, like, and they're cheering you on. They're watching over you. They want you to go down this path. And like I said, your ancestors will never say, this is what you have to do or else. They're kind of like, they give you encouragement. They give you, not sure that that's a good idea, but they won't ever say no. And they won't say yes because they don't want to push you one way or the other. But they're basically saying, this would be a really good place for you. This would be, if you move forward in a way that your goal is to help others and to lift them up from a place where you might have been, and it might be sometimes the reason that this is hard to give up is because you're either afraid to move past it, or you're still getting something out of that you're afraid that if you lose it, you're gonna you don't know what's gonna fill that void. But that knowledge is gonna help you get other people into the place where you're going to be, which is gonna be free of this. Okay?
I'm trying to figure that out still.
And you can see that the next part of your life, see this anchor right here? This, like, the wooden part is the top of the anchor, and then it goes down like this, and you've got these two other things that are attached to it, and you get the upside down frog. But this is actually hooked right into your life, the end of your life path. So it's like hanging on to it. And it's saying this is going to be your salvation. This going forward and reaching this point where you you see how much of an impact that you have on other people, that's going to be your lifeline. That's going to be when things are kind of tough like this, when you're in a place where things feel really squishy and really kind of like you're being tossed around by high seas, this is something that you can latch onto and hold on to it. The anchor signifies hope, and it signifies like a port in a storm, like something that you can hold on to when everything's raging around you. And that's going to be your sense, your source of hope. But it takes cutting. It takes letting go of something that's, again, that thing that's holding you back. These right here, see that little tiny bird's face right there? It's actually those little embroidery scissors that look like storks or whatever. That's what that is. It's a little tiny one. And it's saying you need to cut something out of your life that you know is a facade. Because this little crystal right here, it looks like it's this pretty little crystal. It's actually plastic. It's just like something that was meant to be something a lot that it's not. You know that there's something in your life, it's holding you back. You know that it's kind of not real, but it's scary to get rid of it. And these scissors are saying it's time to let that go. And letting that go is going to show you how much of a handhold you have on something that's really going to buoy you up, that's really going to support you. Because this thing that might have been hanging around for a long time, so it feels like it's part of you and it's safe. It's only safe because you don't want, it's scary to move off of it. It's kind of like, what am I going to do? But letting go of that is going to open up a whole lot of new, wonderful things.
I'm still trying to figure out what that is.
Transformation. This little frog right here.
He's upside
on
down.
His back, which is an acknowledgement that transformation is hard. It's ugly, it's messy. It's like, you ever see a frog on its back? It's kind of like, it's not pretty. And it's saying all of that.
Okay, I'm actually curious now that she mentioned that, what it's not so pretty with a frog being upside down. So I was curious and I went to look what upside down frog looks like, and I guess, yeah, it kind of looks, he looks kind of, okay, interesting. Oh, you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of like dissecting frogs in school.
It's saying all of that's going to be worth it because what you're transforming into is something wonderful. You started off as a little, gummy egg, and then you turned into this pollywog, and you just kept growing and growing and growing. And now you're the little frog who's saying, I'm ready to jump forward. But it's a tough process. So when things feel like they're getting really, so have you ever seen a snake, for example, like slip its skin, shed its skin? It's a nasty process. It takes a long time. It's uncomfortable for the snake. It's like itchy. It has to rub itself against all this stuff, and it smells really bad. Okay, and that's kind of that transformational idea. Is it's going to be all of those things. It's going to be messy. It's going to be smelly. It's going to take a long time. It's uncomfortable. But at the end, you've got this brand new you, this brand new skin, and you're ready to hop forward. But and it's on its back, just acknowledging this isn't going to be easy, but it's so worth it.
That's a great
gotten through. And what it's
analogy.
About, the tough part is letting go of the old stuff that you know is holding you back. Okay, and then you've got the little bird at the end here. So this little guy, this is actually a mineral. It's a rock, and these form when limestone makes. It drips and drips and drips and makes these cute little deposits. And sometimes they come up looking like something really interesting. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little bird. And the bird is about flight, movement. And the bird can be, I got to get out of here. That kind of like flee rather than flight, right? Like, I'm out of here. I got to get out of Dodge. But it can be a wonderful journey. And a flight from who you were to who you're going to be. And it's kind of out there by itself going, you get to decide. You get to decide whether this feels more like a running away or more like a I'm going to alight from this stick that's kind of held me hostage, and I'm just going to fly to what I'm going to be next. What's going to happen next. And that's what you've got. So I already looked under your grandparents, and I know it's under there. I'm just trying to see if we're missing anything else. There's lifted the rock up too.
Okay, guys, and then Zoom crapped out and we had to reconnect, but that was the end of my reading. But when we were able to hop back onto Zoom later on, I just had some general questions about asking how bone throwing or osteomancy works. So here you go. Now the only questions I have really are more of like, I guess I just kind of want to know how bone throwing works in terms of like I've done tarot before, and so you know how you did a reading like that. So if people ask for different topics, is it that you, let's say like relationship, you would do a new throw, and then like for like career, you would do a new throw, or like a general reading what's going on in your life, kind of like what I had, it's a new throw?
Usually what happens is it's up to the ancestors. So when I throw them, what they tell you what they think is most important for you to know. So sometimes, for example, if somebody said, I'm in this relationship, this crazy relationship, I don't know what to do about it, and they'll basically give you the same answers. It's just that you have to clean up this before that will resolve. Right. So they tell you what is the most kind of the most important or the most pressing thing that you have to work on to move on to, then it's sort of all the things will fall into place.
Right.
If I threw it over again, you'd probably get just about the same reading. It would be like sort of mixed around a little bit and maybe different bones meaning the same things, but they always are very adamant about this is what you need to know.
Okay, cool. Interesting. I think, and then for the bones and I guess you say like the charms or the other things in your basket that you kind of collected over the years, is it kind of like your own system of doing things where you say this little token will represent this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's usually, and even some of the more traditional things, they mean something different to me than they might to someone else. And so if I threw something, for example, I have, I do it right now, but there's a coyote claw in here that usually means an untrustworthy man. That's sort of the traditional idea for coyote is somebody who's manipulative, selfish. It's not somebody that you want in your life. And this came up in a woman's reading one time, and I said, I don't understand this because it doesn't fit with the rest of your reading. There's just something about it that's wrong. And I kind of tried, because I said everything around it is positive, I don't get it. And at the end she said, coyote is my spirit animal, and it means something different to me than it does. And I said, well, that makes perfect sense, because it was definitely a positive thing, but I know the bone is not. So it really depends on the person getting the reading, and sometimes something will come up and I'll say, well, this is usually this, but not this time, and I'll feel it as something different. And then it's kind of amorphous. It's right. Just like every time I throw it, I never know what's gonna happen, and I just go with it.
Yeah, and then for the bone reading, would you say it's more a modality you would use more for like what message do I need to hear now, currently going on, versus like forecasting readings, like when is this gonna happen, or when am I gonna get over this?
Right, that first thing.
Okay.
Because like I said, usually there's something going on that you need to resolve before you can even think about what comes next, and I it's generally something that is kind of hung over either from childhood or from even a past life or something. It's like, this is what you're here to resolve. And once you resolve that, it's going to be a whole different picture. So what I tell you now won't pertain in the future anymore, because this is going to be different. Once this is resolved, your life is going to look way different. So you have to take it one step at a time, basically, is how. And I just did a read this morning with the woman who I read for a lot. And so her ancestors and I are like we work really well in tandem, and they have a really good sense of humor. But everybody's ancestors loves the person getting the reading so much. It's like, imagine like your sweet little granny who just wants to tell you something, but some of them will say like, you need to do this right now, or like, hey, snap out of me, like, right. And some of them are just like, oh, my dear sweet child, I know that, so it's really a personality based, and energy of every family is so different, and even guides are the same way. Like some guides are very strict. Like I have one that's just like, do this now, like stop screwing around, and I've got other ones that are just like, oh, just take your time, it's fine. So you don't know what's going to come up at any particular time, but it's always in your best interest. They just express it in different ways.
Right. And then I think my last question really is, when a client comes and asks for a reading, and you do bone throw, is it bone reading, bone throwing? I don't know what
osteomancy.
Osteomancy.
You want to get technical
word. But if they ask for clarification about a situation that's being pointed out, do you do another bone throw, or is it?
Sometimes I'll go in and I'll just like pick another bone or another handful of bones or something, and just because sometimes that happen. And if it's a yes or no question, I have pendulums, and I use the pendulum to just ask, now that I got you all here, what's the next step? Is it this or that? And sometimes they'll say like, how many months is it? You can kind of do that with it. I used to do tarot readings for a long time, and you can sort of narrow down months with numbers and things. And this, it's kind of like, no, that's not the point. They'll say like, it doesn't matter. You can take it slow and you can do it in 2 months, or you can take your time and do it in 2 years. It's just how much work you want to do, and how scared are you to move forward, or how excited are you to move forward. It's really, they kind of put it right in your lap.
Right. So I hope you guys enjoyed my reading and found that really helpful. I'm really glad that even though we got disconnected off of Zoom, she was willing to hop back on again and then answer my questions, mainly because I want to find out for myself and for you guys how osteomancy and bone throwing works. So if you're interested in booking a bone throwing, click on the link down below where you can book a session with Tracy. If you'd like to learn more about the spiritual or metaphysical world, learn more about crystals, Reiki, energy healing, and all these wonderful things, check out our website at thehappyhealingshop.com. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.